Time now for your forewarned weather with Chief Meteorologist Alana Brophy.
Alana's out at the Willard Peak Fire. She's been there all day in North Ogden tracking the weather. And Alana, we had some active skies earlier this evening.
Yes, we did, Brian, and it continues for some of us as we head into the overnight. You know, we were worried about dry thunderstorms, and we saw those in the West Desert around 4 o'clock. But then we had a storm roll over the Great Salt Lake, and it delivered some moisture. And it has been such a long time since we've seen that, more than a month in several locations, and so active conditions. And even tonight, with our fire alerts expiring, we still know that the threat is very real as we deal with heat, dry conditions, and winds. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the rainbow photos, which we haven't said much during this monsoon season, more of a non-soon. Check out Lone Peak. Great shot coming in. Thank you so much to Drew for sharing it. Incredible. And you notice that cloud cover, which is a good indicator that moisture has continued. And that's exactly to stream into the state what we've been dealing with. Keith Vaught sharing this one from Roy. It was a beautiful rainbow. So many folks snap pictures. We appreciate you sending them to us. It was just a reminder that wet weather is here, and it was measurable moisture in a few spots. Loved to see it. We still have some storm potential as we roll into the end of the work week. Great sunset coming off of the Great Salt Lake. Thank you, Scott, for catching that. Look at the pop of color. Look at the cloud cover. Our moisture potential continuing to rise. This is a brief monsoon surge here with the moisture potential, and so that's why we could see some storms. We still have storms out there. Looking at the forewarned radar as we move through the state, we'll go from south to north, holding on with a few pop-ups over Lake Powell and in San Juan County. We jump over to the West Desert towards Delta, Milford. A few pop-ups there as well. Maybe a bit of moisture coming through. We're worried about the lightning, of course, but if it comes through with moisture, hopefully that helps. Jumping a little further north along the Wasatch Front, we've seen a few storms. Southwestern Wyoming has been active. The rain came down, and it came down for some in northern Utah. Great video coming from Trevor. Thank you, Trevor. You can see that heavy rain, some gusty winds in the Syracuse area. More of that, please, especially with our drought conditions continuing to worsen. As you take a view out of those drought conditions, you see a little more red. Extreme drought rising 2% this week, and you can see that extends into eastern Utah and now over the Uintas. We also saw that severe drought increase by 6%. Last week, it was in the mid-60s. When it comes to who is facing those severe drought conditions, higher number this week. And that's going to continue because we have not received substantial wet weather in quite some time. Below average precipitation for June and July and August. Very dry since the start of the month. Time-lapse video coming from our Black Desert Sky Cam of the sun going down. Triple digits in the south. A more southwesterly flow allowed for some upslope cooling in Washington County. As we look at those temperatures, you can see exactly where we topped out today. We saw numbers above average in those mid to upper 90s along the Wasatch Front. Salt Lake getting into the 90s. We saw 104 in St. George. 93 is average this time of year. We were above that, but we backed off of the record heat in triple digits from yesterday. Here's a look at those temperatures right now. We've got some 80s, 70s popping up towards Utah County. And as you look down, we're holding on to the 90s in Washington County. So the southwestern corner of the state is still hot tonight. Takes them a minute or two to cool off, and we know they get mild lows. Look at the moisture uptick. Mark Hemsworth sharing this one from Iron County. You see that cloud cover. This is going to play into tomorrow. Big picture here. Let me show you our ridge of high pressure. That Four Corners high sliding to the east, opening the door for what you just saw in that picture. More moisture. Cloud cover moving in. We're watching that trough, that area of low pressure as it digs, because it's going to cause some forcing, which is why nocturnal storms could continue for several areas, including the West Desert and even along the Wasatch Front. Moisture potential will linger into Saturday. Our big picture shows that high taking over yet again. Once we have this little uptick of thunderstorm activity, it goes away, so the heat comes back. So tomorrow, with all of our moisture potential, it is possible that we see flash flooding at the Mighty 5 and surrounding areas. We haven't seen a lot of this, but it's possible. So you want to make sure if you're recreating in those areas, you stay weather aware. Futurecast walks us through the timing of those storms. Eastern side of the state looks to have the most moisture moisture potential, they will see the most activity, but we can't rule it out in central Utah and along the Wasatch Front. Here we are by Friday afternoon, I think for the evening in Utah County and along the Wasatch Front, there's potential. A few isolated storms will hold on for Saturday. We watch those storms develop in the higher elevations and roll into adjacent valleys. Quick check on temperatures for tomorrow. We'll see those 90s and triple digits, a little closer to average. Next 7 days is a very similar story for Washington County and the Wasatch Front. Drier air is going to move in by Sunday. High pressure takes over and the heat comes back. We cool as a result of the cloud cover and the storms. There's St. George. Look at the Wasatch Front. Same pattern here. Dry by Sunday. Temperatures into the mid to upper 90s as we head into next week. Isolated storm potential. Eyes to the skies as we get through the next few days on the fire line. Nice to be able to say no red flag warnings in effect right now. Fingers crossed for these fire crews who have been working so hard towards containment. Brian, back to you.